Victoria Sterling snapped her fingers 3 inches from his face. "Fix this engine, janitor boy, and I'll marry you right here." 20 executives laughed. The sound bounced off marble walls like thrown stones. Marcus Cole stood frozen in the doorway, trash bag still in his calloused hands. 3 years of invisibility. 3 years of swallowed pride. 3 years of being the most qualified man in the building and the most ignored. What Victoria didn't know was about to destroy everything she believed about power credentials and the man she'd just publicly humiliated. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. The trash bag split. Coffee grounds and crumpled papers spilled across the executive hallway floor. Marcus Cole dropped to his knees immediately, his hands working fast to contain the mess before anyone noticed. Too late. "Jesus Christ, can't you do anything right?" Marcus didn't look up. He knew that voice. Jennifer Walsh, Human Resources Director. The woman who'd added laughing emojis to emails calling him the diversity hire. "Sorry, ma'am. I'll have this cleaned up in... Just hurry. The Germans are here. We don't need them seeing... this." She meant him. Marcus understood. He'd understood for 3 years. "Yes, ma'am." Jennifer's heels clicked away. Marcus finished gathering the garbage, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on the floor. Invisibility was survival in this place. His grandfather had taught him that. Keep your head down. Do the work. Let them underestimate you. But God, some days it burned. The crisis had started 2 weeks ago. Sterling Engine Works had built its reputation on one thing, fixing what no one else could fix. Industrial engines, marine engines, specialty machinery that other shops declared dead on arrival. Victoria Sterling had transformed her father's struggling repair shop into a $40 million operation through ruthless ambition and an army of certified mechanics. Their crown jewel sat dead in Workshop Bay 7, a custom marine engine worth $3.5 million. German engineering. Belonged to Heinrich Müller, owner of one of Europe's largest shipping companies. The engine had been delivered 3 weeks ago with a simple request: diagnose the intermittent failure that had plagued it for months. 17 certified mechanics had tried. 17 had failed. The engine would run perfectly for exactly 12 minutes and 43 seconds. Then it would overheat, throw an incomprehensible error code, and shut down. Every time, without variation. Harmonic disruption detected. Nobody knew what it meant. Nobody could fix it. And Heinrich Müller had given Victoria an ultimatum: solve the problem by Friday, or lose not just this contract, but his entire fleet's maintenance business. 27 vessels, $12 million annually. The clock was ticking. Victoria was desperate, and desperate people did dangerous things. Marcus pushed his cleaning cart through the executive wing, invisible as always. He'd heard the whispers. Everyone had. The German engine was killing the company. Mechanics were working double shifts. Consultants had been flown in from Detroit, from Munich, from Tokyo. Nothing worked. Marcus had his own theory about the problem. He'd developed it during his late-night cleaning shifts when the workshop fell silent and he could actually hear the engine running during test cycles. But theories from janitors didn't matter at Sterling Engine Works. Theories from janitors got you fired. Cole? Marcus stopped. His supervisor, Bill Patterson, was hurrying toward him with that look, the one that meant extra work, no extra pay. "Ms. Sterling wants the executive conference room cleaned. Now. She's got some big meeting in 30 minutes. I cleaned it this morning, sir." "Clean it again. She wants it perfect for the Germans." Marcus nodded. "Yes, sir." "And Cole?" "Sir." Bill lowered his voice. "Stay invisible in there. Don't talk to anyone. Don't look at anyone. Just clean and get out. Understood?" "Understood." The executive conference room smelled like fear. 20 people sat around the massive table: engineers, consultants, department heads. Their faces showed the particular exhaustion of professionals who'd been failing publicly for weeks. Coffee cups created archaeological layers. Laptops displayed the same error codes they'd been staring at since this nightmare began. Marcus entered quietly, fresh cleaning supplies in hand. Nobody looked at him. Nobody ever did. Victoria Sterling stood at the head of the table, her blonde hair pulled into a perfect bun, her designer suit sharp enough to cut. At 41, she commanded respect through fear. The industry called her a visionary. Her employees used different words when she wasn't listening. 17 mechanics. Victoria's voice was ice. 3 consulting firms, 2 weeks, and we're no closer to solving this than we were on day 1. Nobody responded. Nobody dared. Heinrich Muller arrives in 2 hours. He wants a demonstration. He wants progress. What exactly am I supposed to show him? Lead mechanic. David Chen cleared his throat. Ms. Sterling, we've tried everything. Software patches, hardware replacements, complete system diagnostics. The error code doesn't correspond to any known failure pattern. We think there might be a fundamental design flaw in a German-engineered marine engine that's been running successfully for 3 years. Victoria's laugh was sharp. That's your answer, blame the Germans. I'm just saying. You're making excuses. That's what you're saying. Victoria turned to the consultants. What about you? I'm paying you $400 an hour. Surely you have something better than design flaw. The lead consultant, a gray-haired man from a prestigious Detroit firm, shifted uncomfortably. The harmonic disruption error suggests some kind of resonance issue, but we can't identify the source. The engine's mechanical components test perfectly. The electronic systems test perfectly. But when they work together, they fail. Yes, I'm aware. Victoria's fingers drummed against the table. So we have perfect parts that create an imperfect whole. Wonderful. Very helpful. Marcus wiped down the side table, listening. The consultants were closer than they realized. Harmonic disruption. Resonance issues. They were hearing the symptoms, but not understanding the disease. He knew what was wrong. He'd known for 3 days. The engine was built in Hamburg using metric specifications, but the diagnostic software controlling it had been updated in California using imperial measurements. A conversion error, so small it was almost invisible. 0.003 inches of difference was creating cascading synchronization problems. The engine and its brain were speaking different languages. Every 12 minutes and 43 seconds, the mistranslation reached critical mass. Marcus could fix it. He could fix it in an hour with a $50 part. But janitors didn't fix $1,000,000 engines. Janitors emptied trash cans and kept their mouths shut. Maybe we need fresh eyes, someone suggested. Bring in a specialist from the manufacturer. There's no time, Victoria snapped. Muller lands in 2 hours. We need a solution now. Perhaps we should be honest with him. Explain that. Explain that America's premier engine repair facility can't diagnose a problem that German engineers built 3 years ago. Victoria's voice rose. Do you understand what's at stake? We lose Mueller. We lose credibility. We lose credibility. We lose everything. The room fell silent. Marcus finished wiping the side table. He should leave now. Invisible. Safe. Employment preserved. But his grandfather's voice echoed in his mind. Every engine has a heartbeat, son. When you know what's wrong and stay silent, you're not being smart. You're being a coward. His hand stopped moving. God forgive him for what he was about to do. Ma'am. The word came out before he could stop it. Soft. Almost apologetic. But in the silent room, it sounded like a gunshot. 20 heads turned. Victoria's eyes found him. Found the cleaning rag in his hand. The maintenance uniform, the dark skin, the calloused fingers. Her expression shifted through several emotions. Confusion, recognition, disgust. Did our janitor just speak? A few nervous laughs. Marcus's heart hammered, but his voice stayed steady. I apologize for interrupting, ma'am, but I think the problem might be in the harmonic frequency calibration, not the software integration. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria walked toward him slowly. Her heels clicked against the marble floor. Click, click, click. Each step deliberate, predatory. She stopped 3 feet away. Say that again. The harmonic frequency calibration. The engine was built using metric specifications, but your diagnostic software— I heard what you said. Victoria's voice was quiet now. Dangerous. I'm just trying to understand why a man who empties my trash cans thinks he can solve a problem that stumped 17 certified mechanics and 3 consulting firms. I've been listening to the engine, ma'am, during my night shifts, when it runs during test cycles. You've been listening to it. Victoria turned to face her executives, her expression theatrical. Ladies and gentlemen, our janitor has been listening to the engine. How romantic, how folksy. She spun back to Marcus. Tell me, do you also talk to it? Does it share its feelings with you, its hopes and dreams? More laughter, louder this time. Marcus felt his face grow hot. Ma'am, I have a degree in mechanical engineering. I understand. A degree. Victoria's eyebrows rose. From where? Community college. The way she said it, community college, dripped with contempt, as if those words described a disease rather than an education. Yes, ma'am. But if you'll let me explain— Explain what? That you've been eavesdropping on confidential company operations during your cleaning shifts. That you fancy yourself an engineer because you emptied trash cans near our workshop. Victoria's voice carried to every corner of the room. You know what I think? I think we have too many people here who don't belong. Dead weight dragging down our operation. David Chen shifted uncomfortably. Ms. Sterling, maybe we should hear— Hear what? The cleaning man's theory. Victoria laughed again. You know what? Why not? Let's hear it. I could use some entertainment before Muller arrives. She gestured expansively, playing to her audience. Go ahead, janitor. Enlighten us. Marcus looked around the room. 20 pairs of eyes stared back at him, some embarrassed, some amused, none friendly. The engine was manufactured in Hamburg using metric measurements, tolerances to 1/100th of a millimeter. But your diagnostic software was updated here in America using imperial units. When you convert between systems, you get rounding errors. Small ones, almost invisible, but they accumulate. He pointed toward the workshop direction. Your engine runs at optimal efficiency at 3200 RPM. That's its natural harmonic frequency. But your software expects imperial tolerance ranges. It keeps trying to correct for imprecisions that don't exist. Every 12 minutes and 43 seconds, the accumulated corrections create resonance interference. The engine interprets this as a critical failure and shuts down to protect itself. The room was silent again, but it was a different kind of silence now. The fix is simple. You need a harmonic dampener installed between the engine control unit and the main sensor array. It'll translate between the metric reality and the imperial expectations. Cost you maybe $50–60. Victoria stared at him for a long moment. Then she began to clap. Slow, sarcastic. Bravo, bravo, that was very impressive. Did you rehearse that practice in front of a mirror? Ma'am, tell you what. Victoria moved closer, close enough that Marcus could smell her perfume, expensive French, mixed with something else. Contempt, maybe. Since you're so confident, let's make this interesting. She snapped her fingers. The sound was sharp, violent, 3 inches from his face. Fix this engine, janitor boy. Fix it in front of everyone. In front of our engineers, our consultants, and our German investor. Do it in 2 hours. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire room. Fix this engine, and I'll marry you right here. Right in this boardroom. We'll have the ceremony this afternoon. Laughter exploded around the room. Loud, cruel, cathartic. All the fear and tension of the past 2 weeks released in a wave of mockery aimed at the maintenance man who dared to speak above his station. Victoria smiled, savoring the moment. But when you fail, And we both know you will security escorts you out. Permanently. No severance. No reference. Just gone. Like you never existed." She paused. "Which, let's be honest, is basically true already." Marcus felt his hands trembling. Not from fear. From something older. Something his grandfather had warned him about. "Don't let them make you angry, son. Angry men make mistakes. Calm men make history." He took a breath. Let it out slowly. "I'll need access to the parts inventory." Victoria's smile flickered. She'd expected him to back down, to apologize, to disappear. "What? If I'm going to fix the engine, I'll need access to the parts inventory, and your engineer's diagnostic data. And I'll need everyone to clear the workshop bay so I can concentrate." The laughter died. The room felt the shift, the subtle change from mockery to something else. Uncertainty. "You're actually serious." Victoria's voice lost some of its theatrical edge. "You actually think you can do this?" "Yes, ma'am, I do." "You understand the stakes. You fail, you're done, not just here. I'll make sure every shop in this state knows you're unemployable." "I understand." "And you still want to do this?" Marcus looked at her steadily. "My grandfather used to say that every engine has a heartbeat. You just have to know how to listen. Your mechanics are brilliant, ma'am. Your consultants are educated. But they're so busy analyzing data that they forgot to listen." He paused. "I've been listening for 3 days. I know exactly what's wrong. And I can fix it." Victoria studied him for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression, not respect, not yet, but perhaps a sliver of doubt about what she'd started. "Fine." She turned to her executives. "Clear workshop bay 7. Our janitor wants to play engineer. Let's give him the stage." She looked back at Marcus one more time. 2 hours, Mr. Cole. The clock starts when Mueller walks through that door." She strode toward the exit, her heels clicking with renewed authority. "And Mr. Cole?" "Ma'am, when you fail, and you will, I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember that I gave you a chance, that you overreached, that your humiliation is entirely your own fault." She disappeared through the door. Marcus stood alone in the conference room, surrounded by expensive furniture and the lingering scent of French perfume. 2 hours to prove everything his grandfather had taught him. 2 hours to save his job, his dignity, his future. 2 hours to show them all that credentials don't mean anything when you can't hear what the machine is trying to tell you. He picked up his cleaning rag and walked toward workshop bay 7. The engine waited. And somewhere he could almost hear his grandfather's voice. "Show them, boy. Show them what a Cole can do." The walk from the conference room to workshop bay 7 took exactly 4 minutes. Marcus Cole had made this walk 1,000 times before pushing his cleaning cart past engineers who never looked up, past mechanics who stepped around him like furniture, past break rooms where conversations paused when he entered and resumed when he left. This time was different. This time people watched. Word traveled fast at Sterling Engine Works. By the time Marcus reached the workshop corridor, employees had gathered along the windows. Some whispered, some laughed. A few looked uncomfortable, like they were witnessing something they shouldn't. "Is that really him, the janitor?" "Victoria's lost her mind. She's going to let the cleaning guy touch a $3 million engine." "I heard he claims he has an engineering degree." "Community college. Big difference." Marcus kept walking. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. "Let them talk, boy. Words don't fix engines. Hands do." David Chen caught up with him at the workshop entrance. The lead mechanic looked nervous, his voice low enough that others couldn't hear. "Cole, wait." Marcus stopped. "Mr. Chen." "Look, I don't know what you think you're doing, but Victoria isn't playing. She'll destroy you. I've seen her do it before." "I appreciate the concern." "It's not concern, it's a warning." David glanced around, making sure no one was listening. "Last year, a junior mechanic questioned her diagnosis on a transmission job. She was wrong, he was right. You know what happened? No. She buried him, called every shop in the county, told them he was unstable, unreliable, a liability waiting to happen. Guy couldn't get hired to change oil at a quick lube. Last I heard, he's working retail in Nevada. Marcus absorbed this information. Why are you telling me? Because I saw your face in that conference room. You actually believe you can fix this thing. David shook his head. Maybe you can. Hell, we've tried everything else. But even if you're right, Victoria won't let you win. Not publicly. Not like this. Then why'd she agree to the challenge? Because she thinks you'll fail. She needs a scapegoat, someone to blame when Mueller pulls his business. David's voice dropped even lower. You understand. This isn't about fixing an engine anymore. It's about her saving face. If you succeed, you make her look stupid in front of a client worth $12 million a year. You think she's going to let that happen? Marcus looked at the workshop door. Beyond it waited the engine that had defeated 17 mechanics. Beyond it waited his future or the end of it. My grandfather taught me something, Mr. Chen. He said engines don't care about politics. They don't care about egos or corporate games. They just want someone who understands them. He met David's eyes. That engine in there has been trying to tell you what's wrong for 2 weeks. Nobody listened. I did. Cole, I'm going to fix it. And whatever Victoria does after that, I'll deal with it then. He pushed through the workshop door before David could respond. The engine waited in the center of Bay 7 like a mechanical altar. Chrome and steel. German precision. 3 years of flawless operation until something small and invisible had started speaking a language nobody understood. Marcus approached it slowly. His hand touched the cold metal surface, and for a moment he was 12 years old again, standing in his grandfather's garage in Baltimore. Raymond Cole had been a giant of a man. Hands like catcher's mitt's, voice like distant thunder, and a gift for machines that bordered on supernatural. He'd started as a deckhand in the Baltimore shipyards in 1962, one of the first black men to work the engine rooms of commercial vessels. By 1975, he'd become the most sought-after marine mechanic on the eastern seaboard. White folks told me I couldn't read technical manuals. Raymond used to say, his laugh deep and untroubled. So I learned to read engines instead. Manuals can be wrong, son. Engines never lie. Marcus had spent every summer of his childhood in that garage. While other kids played video games and rode bikes, he learned to strip carburetors and time camshafts. He learned that machines had personalities, temperaments even. He learned that the difference between a good mechanic and a great one wasn't knowledge. It was listening. Put your hand here, Raymond would say, guiding young Marcus's palm to a running engine block. Feel that rhythm, that's 8 cylinders having a conversation. Your job is to understand what they're saying. By 16, Marcus could diagnose engine problems by sound alone. A slight irregularity in timing. A whisper of valve where a hint of compression loss, his ears caught what diagnostic machines missed. His community college professors called it intuitive brilliance. Marcus called it inheritance. But inheritance didn't pay medical bills. His mother's diagnosis came during his sophomore year. Stage 3 kidney disease. Dialysis 3 times a week, $800 per session. Insurance covered 60%. The math was brutal and unchanging. I can work more hours, Marcus had told her. We'll figure it out. Baby, you need to stay in school. Transfer to that university like you planned. There's no money for that, Mama, and even if there was, I'm not leaving you. Marcus. No. He'd held her hands, hands that had worked double shifts cleaning office buildings so he could focus on homework, hands that had gone without so he could have. You sacrificed everything for me. Now it's my turn. He'd withdrawn his transfer applications that night. The folder labeled Someday went into a drawer that never opened again. The years after graduation blurred together. Auto repair shops that paid minimum wage, industrial maintenance jobs with no benefits, night shifts and weekend shifts and holiday shifts all feeding into a system that consumed every dollar and demanded more. Then Sterling Engine Works happened. The temp agency had called it a technical consultant position. The reality was mops and trash bags and invisibility. But the pay was steady. The insurance covered his mother's treatments, and Marcus told himself it was temporary. 3 years later, temporary had become permanent. The engineering degree gathered dust. The dreams gathered cobwebs. And Marcus Cole became exactly what Victoria Sterling saw when she looked at him, the cleaning man. Until today. He circled the German engine slowly, his trained eyes cataloging details that others had missed. The mounting brackets showed stress patterns consistent with vibration irregularities. The sensor connections had minor corrosion from electrical feedback. The exhaust manifold displayed heat discoloration that told a story of thermal cycling well outside normal parameters. But the real evidence was invisible. It lived in sound waves and frequency patterns that only someone trained by Raymond Cole could hear. "Talking to yourself, janitor." Marcus turned. Victoria Sterling stood in the doorway, Heinrich Müller beside her. The German industrialist was tall, silver-haired, with the bearing of a man who'd built an empire through precision and intolerance for failure. Behind them trailed a woman Marcus didn't recognize, mid-60s gray-streaked hair, carrying herself with the quiet authority of someone who'd earned respect rather than demanded it. "Mr. Müller, Dr. Vasquez, welcome to Sterling Engine Works." Victoria's voice had transformed into honeyed professionalism. "I apologize that you're arriving during an unconventional situation." Unconventional. Heinrich's English carried precise German inflections. "Your assistant mentioned something about a demonstration." "Yes, well." Victoria shot Marcus a look sharp enough to draw blood. "One of our maintenance staff has expressed confidence that he can diagnose the problem with your engine. I thought it might be educational to let him try." Heinrich's eyes moved to Marcus, taking in the maintenance uniform, the calloused hands, the confident posture that didn't match the clothing. "You are a mechanic." "No, sir. I'm a janitor." Marcus let the word hang in the air. "But I was trained as an engineer, and I believe I know what's wrong with your engine." "Trained where?" "Baltimore Community College. And my grandfather's garage." Victoria's laugh was performative. "You see what I'm dealing with, Heinrich? Our cleaning staff has developed delusions of competence." "My grandfather was Raymond Cole." Marcus continued, ignoring her. "He spent 40 years working marine engines on the Baltimore docks. He taught me that machines have languages. You just have to learn to listen." Dr. Vasquez stepped forward suddenly. Her eyes had sharpened at the name. Raymond Cole. The Raymond Cole who consulted for Bethlehem Steel in the 70s. Marcus felt a jolt of surprise. "You knew him?" "I knew of him. When I was starting my career, his diagnostic methodologies were legendary." She studied Marcus with new interest. "He was your grandfather?" "Yes, ma'am." "He's been dead for years," Victoria interjected. "Whatever reputation he had, it certainly didn't transfer genetically to his grandson." Dr. Vasquez ignored her. "Your grandfather pioneered acoustic diagnostic techniques that are still referenced in marine engineering literature. He could identify bearing wear by sound frequencies that instruments couldn't detect." She tilted her head. "Did he teach you his methods?" "Everything I know about engines I learned from him." "Fascinating." Dr. Vasquez turned to Heinrich. "I'd like to observe this demonstration. If this young man has even a fraction of his grandfather's instinct, it could be illuminating." Heinrich nodded slowly. "Very well. But I have limited patience for theater, Ms. Sterling. If this demonstration wastes my time, our business relationship will need re-evaluation." "Of course." Victoria's smile was fixed brittle. "Mr. Cole has 2 hours, after which I assure you we'll return to professional solutions." She moved closer to Marcus, her voice dropping to a hiss only he could hear. "I don't know what game you're playing, but you just made your situation worse." Elena Vasquez has consulted for every major automotive company in the world. When you fail in front of her, your humiliation won't just be local. It'll be legendary. Marcus met her gaze without flinching. Then I'd better not fail. Victoria's eyes flickered with something that might have been doubt. Then she stepped back, composing her face into theatrical anticipation. Your 2 hours start now, Mr. Cole. The clock is ticking. The workshop had become an amphitheater. Beyond the glass walls, employees pressed against the windows, their faces a mosaic of anticipation and doubt. Someone had started a live stream on the company's social media accounts. The viewer count climbed steadily as word spread through industry networks. Marcus blocked it all out. He approached the engine with his grandfather's rituals. Slow breath, cleared mind, open ears. His hands pressed flat against the metal surface. Cool steel under calloused palms. The engine was dormant now, but he could feel the potential energy sleeping within. What are you doing? Victoria's voice cut through his concentration. Listening. It's not running. Engines speak even when they're silent. The metal holds memory. Temperature patterns, stress distributions, vibration signatures. My grandfather called it the machine's heartbeat at rest. Victoria rolled her eyes dramatically for the cameras. This is absurd. Dr. Vasquez held up a hand. Let him work. Marcus circled the engine slowly, his fingers trailing across different components. The crankcase housing felt normal, good thermal distribution, no hot spots suggesting internal friction. The cylinder heads showed the slight roughness of proper compression sealing. The intake manifold was clean, professionally maintained. But the sensor array. His fingers stopped at a junction box near the engine control unit. The metal here felt different, slightly warmer than surrounding components. A phantom heat signature that shouldn't exist with the engine dormant. This is where the conversation breaks down, he said quietly. Heinrich stepped closer. What do you mean? Your engine was built in Hamburg, German engineering, metric specifications down to hundredths of a millimeter. Marcus pointed to the sensor array. But this diagnostic system was updated stateside. American programming, imperial measurements. We're aware of the mixed specifications, David Chen said from behind the glass. We compensated for conversion in the software. You compensated for direct conversion. 25.4 millimeters to an inch. Straightforward math. Marcus shook his head. But you didn't account for tolerance stacking. Dr. Vasquez's posture changed. Explain. German manufacturing tolerance is plus or minus 0.01 millimeters. American tolerance is typically plus or minus 0.005 inches, about 0.127 millimeters. More than 10 times the variance. Marcus traced the sensor connections. Your software assumes American looseness, but it's reading German precision. Every measurement comes back tighter than expected. The computer thinks something's wrong, so it keeps correcting. Micro adjustments, thousands per minute. We would have detected systematic corrections in the data logs, David protested. Not if they're below your logging threshold. These adjustments are tiny. Individually, they're invisible, but they accumulate. Marcus looked at Heinrich. Your engine runs perfectly for exactly 12 minutes and 43 seconds. That's how long it takes for the accumulated micro-corrections to create harmonic interference. The engine reaches critical resonance, the computer panics, and the whole system shuts down to protect itself. Silence. Then Victoria laughed. That's your theory. Rounding errors. Our engineers considered and dismissed measurement discrepancies in the first week. Your engineers looked at static measurements. They compared numbers on paper. Marcus met her gaze. They didn't listen to what the engine was trying to tell them. And you did, while mopping floors. I did, every night for 3 days. The engine runs test cycles at 2 a.m. I've heard the harmonic shift that happens around the 11-minute mark. There's a frequency oscillation, a wavering in the engine's voice that builds until it becomes destructive interference. Dr. Vasquez was writing rapidly in a leather notebook. You identified a progressive harmonic deviation through auditory observation alone. My grandfather could hear bearing wear at 50 feet. He taught me that instruments measure what they're designed to measure. Ears hear everything. Heinrich looked at Victoria. I want to see this demonstrated. Heinrich, surely you're not taking this seriously. I am taking it very seriously. The German's voice carried steel. My engine has defeated your certified experts for 2 weeks. This man has provided the first coherent theory I've heard. I want it tested. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. Fine. Start the engine, Mr. Cole. Let's see your mystical frequency oscillation. Marcus moved to the control panel. His hands were steady despite his racing pulse. 3 years of invisibility. 3 years of swallowed pride. 3 years of being the most qualified man in the building and the most ignored. This was the moment. He initiated the startup sequence. The engine coughed once, twice, then roared to life. The workshop filled with the deep thunder of controlled combustion, 8 cylinders firing in sequence, thousands of explosions per minute, converting fuel into power with mechanical poetry. Marcus closed his eyes and listened. At first, everything sounded normal. Strong compression, clean fuel burn, proper timing across all cylinders. The engine ran with the confident rhythm of German engineering at its finest, but he waited. 2 minutes. The rhythm held steady. 4 minutes. Still perfect. 6 minutes. Victoria's smirk began returning. 8 minutes. Even Dr. Vasquez looked skeptical. Then Marcus heard it. There. His eyes opened. Right there. Do you hear it? Victoria scowled. I don't hear anything. The 3rd cylinder. It just dropped maybe 2 hertz in frequency. The computer is starting to overcorrect. He moved to the diagnostic display, pointing at waveform patterns that meant nothing to untrained eyes. Watch this oscillation. See how it's beginning to waver. That's the harmonic interference building. The engine is trying to find its natural rhythm, but the software keeps forcing it into an artificial pattern. Dr. Vasquez studied the display intently. The waveform is showing progressive instability, minor but measurable. It'll get worse. In about 3 minutes, the oscillation will exceed the computer's tolerance threshold. That's when you'll see your shutdown. They waited. The engine ran. The waveform wavered. The oscillation grew. At 11 minutes and 16 seconds, the warning lights began flashing. The same incomprehensible error code that had haunted Stirling Engine Works for 2 weeks appeared on every display, harmonic disruption detected. At 12 minutes and 43 seconds, the engine shuddered once and died. Silence filled the workshop. Heinrich Müller stared at the dormant engine, then at Marcus, then at Victoria. His expression had shifted from skepticism to something that looked remarkably like hope. He predicted it, to the second. A lucky guess, Victoria said quickly. Anyone who's watched enough test cycles could time the failure. But he explained why it fails. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her notes. The tolerance stacking theory is mathematically sound. I've seen similar issues in European-American hybrid systems. She turned to Marcus. You said you can fix it. How? Harmonic dampener, a buffer component between the engine control unit and the sensor array. Instead of trying to recalibrate the software or remanufacture the parts, you install a translator, something that absorbs the frequency differential and presents the computer with readings it expects. Such a component would need to be precisely calibrated to the specific frequency ranges involved. It would, but I can calculate those ranges from the oscillation pattern we just observed. Marcus met her eyes. Give me access to your parts inventory and 45 minutes. I'll have your engine running indefinitely. Heinrich turned to Victoria. Give him what he needs. Heinrich, this is extremely irregular. Give him what he needs. The German's voice left no room for argument. I didn't fly across an ocean to watch another failure. This man has earned the chance to prove his theory. Victoria's jaw tightened. For a moment, Marcus saw something flicker behind her eyes, not just anger, but fear. She was losing control of a narrative she'd crafted carefully. Fine. The word came out clipped bitter. David, escort Mr. Cole to the parts inventory. Give him whatever he requests. She stepped closer to Marcus, her voice dropping to a whisper. Enjoy your moment, janitor. It's almost over. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking against concrete with sharp, angry rhythm. Marcus watched her go. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. The hardest part isn't proving them wrong, son. It's keeping your dignity when they realize you were right all along. 45 minutes. The engine waited, and somewhere above Raymond Cole was watching. The parts inventory at Sterling Engine Works occupied a warehouse space larger than most repair shops. Floor-to-ceiling shelving units held thousands of components. Gaskets, bearings, sensors, filters, connectors, organized with military precision. Every part had a location code. Every location had a barcode. The system was designed for efficiency for certified mechanics who knew exactly what they needed and where to find it. Marcus knew what he needed. The question was whether Sterling had it. David Chen walked beside him, his footsteps uncertain. His expression caught somewhere between professional skepticism and personal curiosity. The lead mechanic hadn't spoken since they'd left the workshop, but Marcus could feel the questions building. Go ahead, Marcus said without looking at him. Go ahead what? Ask whatever you're thinking. Might as well get it out. David was quiet for a moment. Then, 3 years. 3 years what? You've been here 3 years, cleaning floors, emptying trash, watching us struggle with problems you could apparently solve. David stopped walking. Why didn't you say something sooner? Marcus stopped too. The warehouse hummed with climate control systems keeping components at optimal storage temperature. Somewhere distant, a forklift beeped. You remember your first week here, Mr. Chen? Vaguely. I remember mine perfectly. Second day on the job, I saw one of your junior mechanics struggling with a timing chain alignment. Simple fix. I'd done it 100 times in my grandfather's garage, so I offered some advice. What happened? Victoria happened. She was walking through, heard me talking to the mechanic, pulled me aside, said if I ever tried to do anything beyond my job description again, I'd be terminated immediately. Marcus's voice carried no bitterness, just the flat recitation of facts. She said technical consultants don't give technical advice. She said I should remember my place. David winced. Christ. After that, I learned to be invisible. Keep my head down, do my job, collect my paycheck. Marcus started walking again. My mother's medical bills don't care about my pride, Mr. Chen. Dialysis doesn't wait while I make a stand. Your mother's sick. Stage 3 kidney disease, 3 sessions a week. Insurance covers 60%. The math is what the math is. They reached the sensor component section. Marcus scanned the shelving with practiced efficiency, his eyes cataloging part numbers and specifications. So why now? David asked. Why speak up today? Because today, staying invisible meant watching you fail, watching Heinrich pull his business, watching people lose their jobs because nobody could hear what that engine was saying. Marcus pulled a component from a shelf, a small metal housing about the size of a hockey puck. Some prices are too high even for survival. He examined the housing carefully. Standard resonance dampener designed for frequency isolation in sensitive electronic systems. Close to what he needed, but not quite right. This won't work as is. The frequency range is wrong. What do you need? I need to modify it. Adjust the internal dampening medium to absorb the specific harmonic frequency that's causing the interference. Marcus looked around. Is there a machine shop attached to this facility? Small one, mostly for custom bracket fabrication. Does it have a precision lathe? Should. Then that's where I need to be. David led him through a connecting corridor to a compact machine shop. Lathes, milling machines, grinders, welding equipment, everything needed for custom metalwork. The space smelled of cutting oil and metal shavings, a scent that triggered deep memories in Marcus's mind. He set the dampener housing on a workbench and examined it under a magnifying lamp. The internal structure was straightforward, a cylindrical cavity filled with vibration-absorbing polymer designed to isolate frequencies between 2000 and 4000 Hz. The problem is the cavity geometry. Marcus said more to himself than David. It's tuned for a broad frequency range. I need something more specific, more precise. How precise? The harmonic interference I identified occurs at approximately 3247 Hz. That's where the metric imperial tolerance differential creates destructive resonance. I need to tune this dampener to absorb that specific frequency while allowing everything else to pass through cleanly. David stared at him. You calculated the exact frequency from listening to the engine. My grandfather could identify bearing wear by sound alone. Frequency analysis was his specialty. He taught me to hear what instruments miss. Marcus began disassembling the dampener housing. The human ear can detect frequency variations as small as 3 Hz. With training, you learn to translate what you hear into mathematical values. That shouldn't be possible. And yet, here we are. Marcus worked quickly, his hands moving with the confidence of deep practice. He removed the internal polymer insert and measured its dimensions precisely. The modification he needed wasn't complicated. A slight adjustment to the cavity depth would shift the resonance absorption peak to the target frequency. But the tolerance was measured in hundredths of a millimeter. German precision, ironically enough. The machine shop door opened. Victoria Sterling entered, her heels clicking against concrete, her expression fixed in theatrical patience. 23 minutes remaining, Mr. Cole. I thought I'd check on your progress. Marcus didn't look up from his work. I'll be ready. Will you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're playing with spare parts in my machine shop. She moved closer, watching his hands. What exactly are you doing? Modifying a resonance dampener to absorb the specific harmonic frequency that's causing your engine failure. Modifying? Victoria's voice dripped skepticism. You're not even installing a standard component. You're inventing something. Adapting something. The principle is standard. The application is custom. Heinrich Müller didn't fly across the ocean to watch a janitor perform amateur engineering experiments on his $3 million engine. Marcus finally looked up. His eyes met Victoria's with steady calm. No, ma'am. He flew across the ocean because your certified mechanics couldn't solve a problem caused by basic unit conversion errors. He flew across the ocean because 17 professionals missed something my grandfather would have caught in 5 minutes. He returned his attention to the dampener. He flew across the ocean because credentials aren't the same thing as competence. Victoria's jaw tightened. For a moment, genuine anger flashed behind her corporate mask. You're enjoying this, aren't you? This little revenge fantasy you're acting out. There's no revenge here, Ms. Sterling. Just a man trying to fix an engine. Marcus began reassembling the modified dampener. If you wanted someone who'd stay in their place, you should have been more careful about the places you put them in. What's that supposed to mean? It means you scheduled my cleaning shifts to overlap with test cycles. Every night at 2 a.m., I was mopping the workshop floors while your mechanics ran diagnostics. You meant it as humiliation. Instead, it gave me access. Victoria's expression flickered. She hadn't considered this, that her cruelty might have created the very opportunity now threatening her authority. 15 minutes, Mr. Cole. I suggest you work faster. She turned and walked out, her heels striking the concrete like angry punctuation. David exhaled slowly. You've got nerve, I'll give you that. Nerve doesn't fix engines. Marcus held up the modified dampener, examining it under the light. But this might. The modified dampener looked unremarkable. A small metal housing with custom-tuned internal geometry. The kind of component that would be invisible once installed, just another part among thousands in a complex mechanical system. But appearances deceived. This simple device represented the translation Marcus had described to Heinrich and Dr. Vasquez. A bridge between languages, a mediator between German precision and American assumptions. "How does it work?" David asked as they walked back toward Workshop Bay 7. "The engine generates vibrations across a broad frequency spectrum. Most of those vibrations are normal, the healthy sounds of combustion and mechanical motion. But the tolerance differential creates an artificial frequency at 3247 Hz. That's the ghost signal the computer keeps trying to correct. And the dampener absorbs it. Exactly. The resonance cavity I modified is tuned to that specific frequency. When the ghost signal passes through the dampener, converts it to heat energy and dissipates it. The computer never sees it. As far as the software is concerned, the engine is operating exactly as designed." "That's elegant." "That's my grandfather. He always said the best solutions were invisible. You fix the problem, the machine works, and nobody ever thinks about why." They reached Workshop Bay 7. The crowd beyond the glass walls had grown. Marcus spotted faces from every department: marketing, sales, accounting, HR. Jennifer Walsh stood near the back, her expression uncertain. Somewhere in that crowd, phones were recording, streaming, documenting. Inside the workshop, Heinrich Müller waited with Dr. Vasquez. The German industrialist checked his watch, a habit Marcus suspected developed through decades of demanding precision from employees and suppliers alike. 11 minutes remaining, Heinrich announced. "Do you have your solution?" Marcus held up the dampener. "I do. That small component will resolve 2 weeks of failure." "Yes, sir, if my calculations are correct. And if they're not, then I'll have embarrassed myself in front of everyone who matters in this industry, and Ms. Sterling will have her scapegoat." Heinrich's expression shifted, not quite a smile, but something approaching approval. "You accept the stakes without excuse. That speaks well of your character, if not necessarily your wisdom." Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. "May I examine the component?" Marcus handed it over. The engineer turned it in her hands, studying the modifications with professional interest. "You adjusted the cavity depth to shift the resonance peak. Standard dampener modified for a specific application." She looked at Marcus. "The precision required for this modification is considerable. 1/100th of a millimeter too deep or too shallow, and the absorption frequency shifts outside your target range." "I know. You made these adjustments in 15 minutes using general-purpose machine shop equipment." "Yes. Without digital calibration tools. My grandfather taught me to feel tolerances in metal. The lathe tells you when you've reached the right depth. You just have to know how to listen." Dr. Vasquez studied him for a long moment. Then she handed back the dampener. "Your grandfather must have been an exceptional teacher." "He was an exceptional man." 9 minutes, Heinrich said. "Install your component, Mr. Cole. Let's see if your ears are as accurate as you believe." The installation took 4 minutes. Marcus worked with practiced efficiency, his hands steady, despite the audience, despite the cameras, despite the weight of everything riding on this moment. The dampener connected between the engine control unit and the primary sensor array exactly where the conversation between software and hardware was breaking down. Each connection required precision. Each fastener required proper torque. Marcus worked through the steps methodically the way his grandfather had taught him. No rushing, no shortcuts. The machine deserved respect regardless of the circumstances surrounding its repair. Victoria returned as he made the final connection. She positioned herself near Heinrich, her body language projecting confident anticipation, the posture of someone expecting vindication. 5 minutes remaining, she announced. "And I see our janitor is ready for his moment of truth." Marcus straightened from the engine, wiping his hands on a shop cloth. The dampener was installed, the connections were secure, the modification was complete. Now came the part that couldn't be calculated or predicted. Now came the moment where theory met reality. "The engine is ready for testing," Marcus said. Dr. Vasquez moved to the diagnostic stations, her experienced eyes ready to interpret every data stream and measurement. "I'll monitor the harmonic frequencies. If your theory is correct, we should see the ghost signal disappear from the sensor readings." "And if it doesn't disappear?" Victoria asked, her voice eager for failure. Then the oscillation will build exactly as before, and the engine will shut down at 12 minutes and 43 seconds. Marcus met her gaze. But it will disappear. The dampener is correctly tuned. Such confidence from a man who's been cleaning toilets for 3 years. The toilets didn't have anything to do with it, ma'am. The knowledge was there the whole time. You just never asked. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Before she could respond, Heinrich stepped between them. Enough. Start the engine. Marcus moved to the control panel. His fingers rested on the ignition switch. Beyond the glass walls, hundreds of employees watched. Beyond the employees, thousands of viewers watched through streaming cameras. Beyond the viewers, the entire trajectory of his life watched every sacrifice, every swallowed insult, every night spent dreaming of moments exactly like this one. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. When you know you're right, son, don't hesitate. Hesitation is just doubt wearing a different mask. Marcus turned the key. The engine roared to life. The sound filled Workshop Bay 7 with controlled thunder, 8 cylinders firing in sequence, fuel converting to power, German engineering performing exactly as designed. But this time, something was different. This time, the underlying harmony was pure. Marcus heard it immediately. The subtle strain that had colored the engine's voice before, that barely perceptible wrestling between systems speaking different languages, was gone. In its place, clarity, confidence, the sound of machinery operating in perfect synchronization. Initial readings are clean. Dr. Vasquez reported, her eyes fixed on the diagnostic displays. All frequencies within normal parameters. 2 minutes, Heinrich noted. The engine ran. The crowd watched. Victoria's expression remained fixed, but her hands had begun to betray her fingers, interlacing, separating, interlacing again. 4 minutes, still clean. Marcus stood motionless beside the control panel, listening. Not to prove anything, he already knew he was right, but to appreciate the sound. His grandfather had called it the music of machines. After 3 years of silence, Marcus was finally conducting again. 6 minutes, all systems nominal. The murmuring beyond the glass walls grew. Employees who'd expected quick failure now shifted uncomfortably as the engine continued its steady rhythm. 8 minutes. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. This doesn't prove anything. Maybe the problem was intermittent. Maybe it would have resolved itself. The failure occurred at exactly the same interval 17 times in a row, David Chen said quietly. That's not intermittent. That's systematic. 10 minutes. Dr. Vasquez leaned closer to her displays. No harmonic deviation. No oscillation building. The frequency profile is completely stable. 11 minutes. The moment approached when 17 times before, warning lights had begun their frantic blinking. 17 times the ghost signal had overwhelmed the computer's tolerance. 17 times the engine had surrendered to the conflict between languages it couldn't bridge. 12 minutes. Heinrich held his breath. Victoria's hands were now pressed flat against her thighs, hiding their trembling. Dr. Vasquez's pen had stopped moving. Her attention consumed by displays showing exactly what Marcus had predicted. 12 minutes 30 seconds. Silence except for the engine. Steady, confident, unwavering. 12 minutes 43 seconds. Nothing happened. The engine ran. The displays stayed green. The error code that had haunted Stirling Engine Works for 2 weeks didn't appear. 13 minutes, Dr. Vasquez announced, and her voice carried wonder. 14 minutes. The harmonic readings are perfectly stable. There's no sign of the oscillation building. Let it run, Marcus said. The real test is sustained operation. They waited. 15 minutes. 20. 25. The engine maintained its rhythm with German precision, finally speaking a language its computer could understand. At 30 minutes, Heinrich Müller began to laugh. The sound was unexpected. A deep, genuine expression of relief and amazement that transformed his stern features. He turned to Marcus with eyes that had shifted from evaluation to respect. 30 minutes. My engine has not run for 30 consecutive minutes since it arrived at this facility. It'll run longer than that, sir. The dampener is rated for continuous operation. You could run it for days if you had the fuel. A $50 component. Heinrich shook his head. 2 weeks, 17 mechanics, 3 consulting firms, and it came down to a $50 component and a janitor who knew how to listen. Victoria stepped forward quickly. Heinrich, let's not overstate what happened here. The diagnostic insight was valuable, certainly, but the actual repair was relatively simple. Our engineering team could have... Your engineering team had 2 weeks, Ms. Sterling. They produced nothing but excuses and invoices. Heinrich's voice cut like surgical steel. This man produced results in less than 2 hours. I know which approach I prefer. Dr. Vasquez closed her notebook and walked to Marcus. Her handshake was firm, professional, carrying the weight of respect earned through demonstrated competence. Your grandfather's methodologies aren't just historical curiosities. They're practical diagnostic techniques that modern engineering has forgotten. She held his grip for an extra moment. Have you ever considered publishing your acoustic analysis approach? The marine engineering community would benefit enormously from your insights. I've been busy, ma'am, cleaning floors and emptying trash cans. The words weren't bitter, just factual, but they hung in the air like an indictment. Heinrich turned to Victoria. We need to discuss Mr. Cole's role in our ongoing partnership. Heinrich, surely you're not suggesting... I'm not suggesting anything, Ms. Sterling. I'm informing you. The German's voice carried decades of authority, the tone of a man accustomed to having his decisions implemented without question. This man will be involved in all future maintenance of my fleet's engines. His diagnostic capabilities exceed anything your certified staff has demonstrated. Whether he works for your company or mine is a detail to be negotiated, but his involvement is not optional. Victoria's face had gone pale. You're restructuring a $12 million contract based on the performance of a janitor. I'm restructuring it based on competence. Heinrich looked at Marcus with something approaching warmth. Mr. Cole, your engine is singing beautifully. I believe the phrase in American English is, "You've proved your point." Thank you, sir, but I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just trying to fix your engine. And that, Heinrich smiled fully for the first time, is exactly why you succeeded where others failed. You focused on the machine, not the politics. He glanced at Victoria. Others would do well to learn from your example. The workshop doors opened. The crowd that had been pressed against the glass walls now flooded into Bay 7 engineers, mechanics, administrative staff, all drawn by the magnetic pull of witnessed miracle. They surrounded the still-running engine, staring at the green diagnostic displays as if they were viewing religious artifacts. Marcus stepped back from the crowd. His part was finished. The engine was fixed. The theory was proven. What happened next belonged to conference rooms and contract negotiation spaces where he'd never been welcome and probably never would be. But as he turned toward the exit, a hand caught his arm. David Chen stood beside him, his expression complicated shame and admiration wrestling for dominance. Cole, wait. Mr. Chen, I owe you an apology. 3 years you've been here. 3 years I've walked past you like you were furniture. David's voice caught slightly. I'm supposed to be the lead mechanic. I'm supposed to know this stuff. And I missed what you saw in 3 days of listening. You didn't miss it. You just weren't trained to hear it. That's generous. Too generous. David released his arm. For what it's worth, you've got my respect. And my support, whatever that's worth, in this company. Marcus nodded slowly. It's worth more than you know, Mr. Chen. Thank you. He continued toward the exit, leaving behind the crowd, the cameras, the still-running engine that represented everything his grandfather had taught him. The workshop doors closed behind him with a soft click. The corridor was empty, quiet. The distant hum of the engine reached him even here, that beautiful steady rhythm of machinery, finally at peace. Marcus leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. His hands were trembling now, the adrenaline finally releasing. He thought of his mother waiting at home for news she didn't know was coming. He thought of his grandfather watching from wherever the dead watched. He thought of the folder in his apartment labeled Someday, the transfer applications that had never been submitted, the dreams that had been deferred but never abandoned. "You did it, Grandpa," he whispered. "We did it." The engine's rhythm continued steady and strong, filling Stirling Engine Works with a sound that would change everything. The quiet didn't last. Marcus had been leaning against the corridor wall for maybe 90 seconds when the workshop doors burst open. Heinrich Müller emerged first, his silver hair slightly disheveled, his Germanic composure cracked by genuine excitement. "Mr. Cole, there you are." Marcus straightened. "Mr. Müller, you cannot leave yet. There are matters to discuss." Heinrich gestured back toward the workshop. "Important matters regarding your future." "My future? Did you think you would simply return to your cleaning duties after what just happened?" Heinrich's laugh was incredulous. "Come, Dr. Vasquez and I have proposals that require your attention." Marcus followed him back through the workshop doors. The crowd had thinned slightly. Most employees had returned to their departments carrying stories that would spread through Stirling Engine Works like wildfire. But the key players remained. Dr. Vasquez sat at a workbench writing rapidly in her notebook. David Chen stood near the still-running engine monitoring diagnostics with newfound respect. Victoria Stirling was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Ms. Stirling?" Marcus asked. "Conference call with her board of directors," Heinrich replied. "Apparently the live stream of today's events has generated significant attention." "What kind of attention?" "The viral kind." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her notes. Last count, the company's social media feed had over 200,000 views. The comments are predominantly focused on questions about management practices and employee treatment. Marcus absorbed this information. He hadn't considered the broader implications of the live stream, hadn't thought beyond fixing the engine and surviving the immediate challenge. "That wasn't my intention," he said quietly. "Intent rarely matters in the court of public opinion." Heinrich pulled a chair toward Marcus. "Sit. We have much to discuss." Marcus sat. His legs appreciated the relief the adrenaline crash was hitting hard, now leaving him feeling hollowed out and slightly disconnected from reality. "I will be direct," Heinrich began. "My company, Müller Maritime, operates 27 vessels across European shipping lanes. Each vessel requires regular engine maintenance. Each maintenance cycle represents significant investment in parts labor and downtime." "I understand." "Do you? Because what I witnessed today suggests that my current maintenance protocols may be fundamentally flawed." Heinrich leaned forward. "My engineers in Hamburg are excellent. My American service providers are certified and experienced. Yet a man with a community college degree and a cleaning cart identified a problem they all missed." "It wasn't about the degree, sir. It was about training. My grandfather—" "Your grandfather taught you to hear what machines are saying. Yes, I understand." Heinrich waved a hand. "But his training methods are not widely available. His diagnostic approach exists only in you. This makes you uniquely valuable." Marcus felt the weight of that word valuable. 3 years of being treated as worthless, and now a German industrialist was calculating his worth in terms of fleet operations and maintenance efficiency. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A consultancy arrangement. Müller Maritime would retain your services for diagnostic evaluation of our entire fleet. You would travel to our vessels, listen to their engines, identify problems before they become failures." Heinrich paused. "The compensation would be substantial. Far more than your current position. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a career, one that utilizes your actual capabilities rather than suppressing them." Dr. Vasquez closed her notebook. "I have a separate proposal, Mr. Cole. My consulting firm specializes in advanced diagnostic methodologies for automotive and marine applications. Your acoustic analysis techniques represent a significant advancement over current industry practices." "You want to study my methods?" I want to document them, formalize them, create training programs that can teach other engineers to hear what you hear. She met his eyes directly. Your grandfather's knowledge shouldn't die with you. It should be preserved, expanded, taught to the next generation of mechanics. Marcus sat silently processing offers that would have seemed impossible 2 hours ago. A consulting career with a European shipping company. A research partnership with a legendary engineer. Doors that had been locked for years suddenly swinging open. This morning, he said slowly, I was cleaning toilets in the executive washroom. I found Miss Sterling's discarded tissues and empty coffee cups. I scrubbed soap scum from her sink. Mr. Cole, I'm not complaining, sir. I'm making a point. Marcus looked at both of them. 3 years I did that work. 3 years I was invisible. Nobody asked what I knew. Nobody cared what I could do. And now, because I fixed one engine in front of the right people, suddenly I'm valuable. Is that wrong? Dr. Vasquez asked. It's not wrong. It's just... Marcus searched for the right words. There are others. Other people with skills that nobody sees. Other janitors and cleaners and night shift workers who know things, who could contribute things if anyone bothered to ask. I'm not special. I just got lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, with the right audience. Heinrich nodded slowly. You're concerned about systemic issues, the waste of human potential through prejudice and assumption. I'm concerned about the kid in Baltimore, who's got my grandfather's gift, but will never get the chance to use it because nobody thinks a black kid from the wrong neighborhood can understand engines. Then use your platform to change that. What platform? Mr. Cole. As of this moment, you are arguably the most famous mechanic in America. Your story is spreading across social media. Engineers are debating your methods. Companies are wondering what talent they're overlooking. Heinrich smiled slightly. You wanted to help others like yourself. You now have the audience to do so. Before Marcus could respond, the workshop doors opened again. Victoria Sterling entered, her face pale, her perfect composure showing visible cracks. Behind her came 2 men in expensive suits, the kind of suits that meant legal or financial authority. Mr. Mueller, Dr. Vasquez, thank you for your patience. Victoria's voice was carefully controlled, but strain showed in every syllable. I've just concluded a conference call with our board of directors. They've asked me to convey several decisions. Heinrich's expression cooled. I'm listening. First, Sterling Engine Works formally apologizes for the circumstances surrounding today's demonstration. The treatment of Mr. Cole was inconsistent with our company values and professional standards. The words sounded rehearsed. Lawyer-approved language designed to minimize liability rather than express genuine remorse. Second, effective immediately, Mr. Cole is promoted to Senior Diagnostic Engineer with full benefit stock options and compensation commensurate with his demonstrated expertise. Marcus blinked. Excuse me. The board recognizes that your talents were underutilized due to administrative oversights. Victoria's jaw tightened on the euphemism. They wish to correct this error. Administrative oversights. Marcus stood slowly. Is that what we're calling it? 3 years of being assigned to clean toilets while certified engineers failed at problems I could have solved. 3 years of being scheduled for humiliation duty during investor meetings. 3 years of emails calling me the diversity hire and speculating about whether I could read. Victoria's composure cracked further. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm referring to the email thread you started last month. The one where you and Jennifer Walsh laughed about my limited vocabulary. The one where you discussed my inevitable termination as a cost-cutting measure. Marcus stepped closer. Did you think it doesn't keep backups? Did you think nobody would ever look? The 2 suited men exchanged glances. One of them made a note on a legal pad. Mr. Cole, if there have been communications that were inappropriate, the board will investigate. The board will investigate because they're scared. Marcus's voice stayed calm, but carried an edge that made Victoria step back. The live stream has 200,000 views. By tomorrow, it'll have 2 million. Every HR department in America is going to use today as a case study in what not to do. Your company's name is going to be synonymous with workplace discrimination. We can discuss compensation. I don't want your compensation. I don't want your promotion. I don't want anything from Sterling Engine Works. Marcus turned to Heinrich and Dr. Vasquez. You both made me genuine offers based on my demonstrated abilities. That's what respect looks like. What Victoria is offering is damage control dressed up as opportunity. Victoria's mask finally crumbled. You have no idea what you're throwing away. This company treated me like garbage for 3 years. The only thing that changed is I'm now too visible to ignore. Marcus shook his head. You're not promoting me because you recognize my value. You're promoting me because you're terrified of what happens if you don't. Heinrich stood straightening his jacket. Ms. Sterling, I believe our business relationship requires significant restructuring. My legal team will be in contact regarding contract modifications. Heinrich, please, let's not make hasty decisions based on one incident. One incident that revealed systemic failures in your organization's ability to recognize and utilize talent. Heinrich's voice carried finality. I invest in companies that solve problems efficiently. Today demonstrated that your company has been solving problems inefficiently for years, possibly decades. That requires examination. He extended his hand to Marcus. Mr. Cole, I will have my assistant contact you tomorrow with formal employment terms. Take the night to consider my offer. Discuss it with your family. Make whatever decision is right for you. Marcus shook his hand. Thank you, sir. Dr. Vasquez approached next. My offer stands as well. Your grandfather's methods deserve documentation and dissemination. If you're interested in ensuring his legacy reaches the next generation, I would be honored to work with you. I'll think about it, ma'am. Seriously. She handed him a business card. My direct line. Call anytime. The German delegation departed, leaving Marcus alone with Victoria and her legal escorts. The workshop felt suddenly smaller, the air thicker with unresolved tension. Victoria spoke first. You've made a powerful enemy today, Mr. Cole. Have I? I built this company from nothing. I turned a failing repair shop into a $40 million operation. You think one viral video is going to destroy that? I don't want to destroy anything, Ms. Sterling. I just wanted to fix an engine and keep my job. And now you have offers from Heinrich Müller and Elena Vasquez. You'll leave this company and build some kind of consulting career while I deal with the fallout. Victoria's voice turned bitter. You think you've won something. You think this is justice, but you don't understand how the world works. I understand how engines work. That's all I ever claimed. Engines follow rules. People don't. You embarrassed me in front of my board, my investors, my employees. You think I'm going to forget that? I think you're going to be too busy dealing with HR investigations and contract renegotiations to worry about me. Marcus gathered the tools he'd used during the modification, organizing them automatically. The board wants scapegoats. Your email history provides convenient ones. Jennifer Walsh is probably clearing out her desk right now. Victoria's expression flickered, the first sign that she hadn't considered all the implications of her own exposure. I'll survive this, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. Marcus finished organizing the tools and turned toward the exit. Goodbye, Ms. Sterling. Thanks for the 3 years of education in how not to treat people. He walked out of Workshop Bay 7 without looking back. The drive home took 45 minutes. Marcus drove his 12-year-old Honda Civic through evening traffic, his mind processing the day's events with the same methodical approach he applied to engine diagnostics. Input 1 broken engine and 3 years of accumulated humiliation. Process acoustic analysis, custom modification, public demonstration. Output job offers, viral fame, and the complete restructuring of his professional prospects. His phone had been buzzing constantly since he'd left Sterling Engine Works. Messages from numbers he didn't recognize. emails flooding his inbox, social media notifications from accounts he barely used. He'd silenced everything the noise could wait until he'd talked to the one person whose opinion actually mattered. His mother's apartment was on the third floor of a modest building in East Baltimore. The elevator had been broken for 2 months. Marcus climbed the stairs automatically, his legs carrying him along a path worn smooth by thousands of repetitions. Denise Cole was waiting at the door when he reached the landing. "Baby?" Her voice carried worry and hope in equal measure. "I saw the video. Everybody saw the video." Mrs. Patterson from 3B came knocking on my door, asking if that was really my son fixing that big engine. Marcus hugged her carefully, mindful of the dialysis port in her arm. "It was really me, Mama. Come inside. Tell me everything." The apartment was small, but immaculate. Denise Cole's standards hadn't diminished despite her illness. Marcus sat at the kitchen table while his mother made tea, a ritual that had survived decades of hardship and change. "Start from the beginning," Denise said, setting cups between them. "Don't leave anything out." So Marcus told her. The challenge in the conference room. The snapping fingers 3 inches from his face. The impossible wager that had seemed designed purely for his humiliation. The engine that had spoken to him through sound and vibration. The modification that had taken 15 minutes and cost less than $100. The expressions on faces when the engine ran past the failure point and kept going. "That woman snapped her fingers in your face." Denise's voice tightened with maternal fury. "In front of everybody. It's on video, Mama. About 2 million people have seen it by now." "Good. Let them see. Let the whole world see how she treated my son." Denise reached across the table to grip his hands. "Your grandfather would be so proud. You know that Right Raymond is looking down right now, probably laughing his fool head off at that woman's face when the engine kept running. I thought about him the whole time. His voice was in my head telling me what to do. That's because he trained you right. All those summers in that garage weren't wasted." Denise's eyes glistened. "I used to worry, you know. When you were a boy, spending all your time with engines instead of books. Your father wanted you to be a lawyer or a doctor, something respectable. Engines are respectable. I know that now. I knew it then too, really. I just worried about how the world would treat a black man who fixed things instead of argued cases or wrote prescriptions." She squeezed his hands. "But you showed them today. You showed them all." Marcus told her about the offers, Heinrich Muller's consulting position, Dr. Vasquez's research partnership. He explained the money, the travel, the opportunities that had materialized from nothing in the span of an afternoon. "What are you going to do?" Denise asked. "I don't know yet. Both offers are good. Better than anything I could have imagined this morning." "But," Marcus hesitated. His mother knew him too well to miss the uncertainty beneath the success. "I keep thinking about what I said to Heinrich, about all the other people out there with skills nobody sees. All the janitors and cleaners and night shift workers who could solve problems if anyone bothered to ask them." "And you feel guilty about your success?" "Not guilty exactly, more like responsible." Marcus stared at his tea. "I got lucky today. Right place, right time, right audience. But luck isn't a system. Luck doesn't help the next kid who's got talent, but no opportunity." Denise was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and walked to a bookshelf crowded with family photographs and accumulated memories. She returned with a faded photograph that Marcus recognized immediately. Raymond Cole, circa 1978, standing in front of Ford Motor Company's Baltimore facility. He wore work clothes spotted with grease, and his expression carried the particular satisfaction of a man who knew his worth regardless of what others thought. "Your grandfather gave me this photo the day I married your father," Denise said. "He told me a story I've never forgotten." "What story?" "When Raymond started at Ford, he was the only black man in his section. The white mechanics wouldn't talk to him, wouldn't help him, wouldn't even look at him most days. They were waiting for him to fail so they could say they were right, that a black man didn't belong in their shop." "I've heard this part." "Wait, there's more." Denise set the photo on the table between them. After about 6 months, one of those white mechanics got himself into trouble. Engine job nobody could figure out. Boss was threatening to fire him if he couldn't solve it by end of shift. The man was desperate. What did Grandpa do? Raymond walked over and offered to help. Just like that. No grudge, no conditions. He spent his lunch break showing that mechanic what he'd missed, and together they fixed the engine before deadline. Why would he help someone who'd treated him so badly? Because Raymond understood something important. Being better isn't about proving others wrong. It's about lifting others up. That mechanic became one of his closest friends. Started defending Raymond when others made comments. Eventually became shop foreman and hired 3 more black mechanics because he'd learned to see past his own prejudice. Denise touched the photograph gently. Your grandfather changed minds by changing hearts. He didn't shame people into treating him right. He showed them why they should want to. Marcus looked at the photograph with new understanding. His grandfather's expression wasn't just satisfaction. It was the confidence of a man playing a longer game than anyone around him realized. What are you telling me, Mama? I'm telling you that luck isn't a system, but you might be. Denise met his eyes with the fierce love that had sustained him through every hardship. You have opportunities now. Visibility. Influence. The question isn't which job offer to accept. The question is what you're going to do with the platform you've built. Dr. Vasquez talked about documenting Grandpa's methods, creating training programs. That's a start. Heinrich mentioned that I have an audience now, that I could use it to help others. That's bigger. Marcus sat with this for a long moment. The tea cooled in his cup. The photograph of his grandfather seemed to watch him waiting for a decision that had been decades in the making. What if I did both? He said slowly. Took Heinrich's consulting work for income and stability, but partnered with Dr. Vasquez on training programs for acoustic diagnostics. Use whatever platform I've built to advocate for people like me, people with skills that nobody sees. That sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like a purpose. Marcus picked up the photograph. Grandpa fixed engines his whole life. But his real legacy wasn't the machines he repaired. It was the people he changed. Denise smiled, the first full smile Marcus had seen from her in months, despite the illness, despite the exhaustion, despite the endless grind of medical appointments and insurance battles. Now you're thinking like a Cole. Marcus's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, another unknown number, another message from someone who'd watched the video and wanted something from him. But this time, instead of silencing it, he answered. This is Marcus Cole. The voice on the other end was young, hesitant, nervous. Mr. Cole, I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Devin Williams. I'm 17. I saw your video and I had to call. It's okay, Devin. What's on your mind? I work at a garage after school. Nothing special, just oil changes and tire rotations. But I've been trying to learn more real mechanics, not just maintenance. My boss says I've got good instincts, but I can't afford school, and my grades aren't good enough for scholarships. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, recognition of a story he knew too well. Go on. I guess I'm calling because I saw what you did, how you listened to that engine and knew what was wrong, and I was wondering. Devin's voice cracked slightly. I was wondering if that's something that can be taught, or if you have to be special to do it. Marcus thought of his grandfather's hands on his shoulders, guiding him toward a running engine. He thought of summer afternoons in a Baltimore garage, learning to hear what machines were saying. He thought of a 12-year-old boy who'd been told nothing about being special, only about listening. It can be taught, Devin. It's not about being special. It's about paying attention. Really. Listen. I'm going through some changes right now, but give me a few weeks to sort things out. Then call me back. We'll talk about options. You mean it? I mean it. You're not alone in this. There are a lot of people out there with skills nobody sees. That's going to change. Marcus ended the call and looked at his mother. She was crying quietly, tears running down weathered cheeks. "What?" he asked softly. "Nothing, baby. I just love you so much, and your grandfather would be so proud of the man you've become." Marcus reached across the table and took her hands again. "This is just the beginning, Mama. Everything changes from here." Outside the apartment window, the Baltimore evening settled into darkness. But somewhere in Marcus Cole's chest, something bright had ignited a flame that had been banked for 3 years, now burning with renewed purpose. The engine was just the start. The real work was about to begin. 6 months changed everything. Marcus Cole stood in the conference room of Mueller Maritime's Baltimore office, watching through floor-to-ceiling windows as cargo ships moved through the harbor below. The same harbor where his grandfather had worked 40 years ago. The same waters that had carried Raymond Cole's reputation across the eastern seaboard. Now, they carried his grandson's legacy. "Mr. Cole, the Hamburg team is ready for your assessment." Marcus turned to face his assistant, a young woman named Keisha Williams. Devon's older sister, hired 3 months ago after Marcus learned she'd been working 2 jobs while pursuing an engineering degree at night. She reminded him of himself at that age. Hungry, capable, invisible to everyone who should have noticed. "Tell them I'll be there in 10 minutes. I want to finish reviewing these diagnostic reports first." "Yes, sir." Keisha departed, and Marcus returned his attention to the tablet displaying engine performance data from Mueller's European fleet. 27 vessels, all running with the acoustic monitoring systems he'd helped design. Systems that listened to engines the way his grandfather had taught him to listen, translating mechanical voices into actionable intelligence. The numbers were remarkable. Maintenance costs down 34%. Unexpected failures reduced by 61%. Operational efficiency up across every metric that mattered. Heinrich Mueller had made his investment back within 4 months. But the numbers weren't why Marcus stood at this window, watching ships move through morning fog. The numbers were just proof. Evidence that competence could triumph over credentials when given the chance. The real victory was smaller, more personal, more important. His phone buzzed. A text from Devon Williams. "First day at community college. Scared but ready. Thank you for believing in me." Marcus smiled and typed back, "Your grandfather believed in you first. I just reminded you to listen." The Cole Foundation had launched 3 months ago. Named for Raymond, funded by Marcus's consulting fees, and Dr. Vasquez's research grants, it provided scholarships and mentorship for young people from backgrounds like his own. Kids who understood machines intuitively but couldn't afford formal education. Workers whose skills were invisible to employers, focused on certifications and degrees. Devon had been the first scholarship recipient. By next year, there would be 20 more. The foundation also ran training programs based on Raymond Cole's acoustic diagnostic methods. Dr. Vasquez had documented everything: the listening techniques, the frequency analysis, the intuitive pattern recognition that separated good mechanics from great ones. What had once existed only in Marcus's memory was now a curriculum taught at 3 community colleges and counting. Engines speak to those who know their language. The program materials began. Your job is to learn to listen. Marcus's phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he recognized but hadn't expected. "Mr. Cole, this is Patricia Brooks from Sterling Engine Works Board of Directors." Marcus felt his shoulders tense slightly. 6 months of distance hadn't fully erased the memories. "Ms. Brooks, what can I do for you?" "I'm calling with an invitation. The board would like you to attend a ceremony at our facility next week. We're unveiling some changes that we believe you should witness." "What kind of changes? It would be better if you saw them in person. Can I count on your attendance?" Marcus hesitated. Sterling Engine Works had become a cautionary tale in business schools and HR departments nationwide. The viral video had spawned investigations, lawsuits, and a complete restructuring of company leadership. Victoria Sterling had been removed as CEO within 2 months of the incident, not fired exactly, but transitioned to advisory role in language designed to minimize legal exposure. He'd heard she was still with the company in some capacity. The thought of facing her again triggered complicated emotions he hadn't fully processed. "I'll consider it," he said finally. "Send me the details." "Thank you, Mr. Cole. We hope to see you there." The call ended, leaving Marcus staring at his phone with uncertain feelings. Keisha appeared in his doorway. "Sir Hamburg is waiting." "Right. Let's go." He pushed Sterling Engine Works from his mind and focused on the work that mattered. The week passed quickly. Marcus traveled to 3 ports, assessed 7 engines, and trained 24 maintenance workers in basic acoustic diagnostic techniques. His reputation had grown beyond the viral video. Now he was becoming known in maritime circles as the man who could hear what instruments missed, who could predict failures before they happened, who treated engines with the respect they deserved. But the invitation from Sterling Engine Works lingered in his thoughts. He discussed it with his mother during their Sunday dinner, a tradition they'd maintained despite his travel schedule. Denise was doing better now, her treatments funded without financial stress for the first time in years. The apartment was the same, but everything around it had changed. "You should go," Denise said, passing him a plate of her famous fried chicken. "Closure matters. What if it's some kind of publicity stunt, using me to rehabilitate their image? Then you'll know, and you can leave." Denise's eyes held the wisdom of someone who'd survived worse betrayals than corporate humiliation. But what if it's genuine? What if something good came from all that pain? "You sound like Grandpa. Where do you think he learned it?" She smiled. "Your grandfather always said that holding grudges was like carrying broken engine parts in your pockets. They just weigh you down and cut your hands." "I'm not holding a grudge." "Baby, you haven't said Victoria Sterling's name out loud in 6 months. That's not forgiveness. That's avoidance." Marcus had no response to that. His mother was right as usual. The ceremony was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Marcus arrived at Sterling Engine Works in a car nicer than anything he'd owned 6 months ago. Not flashy, but reliable, and paid for in cash. He wore a suit that fit properly, tailored by a shop in Hamburg that had served Heinrich Muller's executives for decades. The building looked the same. Glass and steel reaching toward the sky, projecting ambition and innovation. But something felt different as Marcus approached the entrance. Softer, maybe. Less intimidating. Patricia Brooks met him in the lobby. She was a tall woman in her 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, with the bearing of someone who'd navigated corporate politics for decades. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming." "Ms. Brooks, I'll admit I'm curious about what warranted a personal invitation." "You'll understand shortly, if you'll follow me." They walked through corridors that Marcus knew intimately. He'd cleaned these floors for 3 years after all. But the faces that passed him now were different. People looked at him directly. Some nodded in recognition. A few smiled. "The culture has changed significantly since your departure," Patricia said, noticing his observations. "Your video forced conversations that were long overdue, not comfortable conversations, but necessary ones." "I didn't make that video to change your culture." "No, you made it to fix an engine. The culture change was a side effect." Patricia paused at an elevator. Sometimes the most important changes are unintentional. They rode up to the executive floor territory Marcus had only entered as cleaning staff. Patricia led him to the main conference room where a crowd had gathered. Employees, board members, media representatives with cameras and microphones. And Victoria Sterling. She stood near the window wearing a modest business suit that was notably less expensive than her former wardrobe. Her posture was different too, less aggressive, more contained. 6 months had aged her in ways that went beyond physical appearance. Their eyes met across the room. Victoria's expression flickered through several emotions, shame, defiance, resignation, before settling into something approaching acceptance. Patricia guided Marcus to a seat near the front. "The ceremony will begin shortly." The conference room filled. Marcus recognized David Chen among the audience, now wearing a badge that identified him as Director of Engineering Operations. A promotion, apparently. Near the back stood Jennifer Walsh's replacement, a young black woman named Dr. Tamara Wright, brought in from a competing firm to rebuild Sterling's HR department from the ground up. Patricia Brooks took the podium. Thank you all for being here. 6 months ago, this company experienced a crisis that exposed fundamental failures in our operations, our culture, and our leadership. We failed to recognize talent. We failed to treat employees with dignity. We failed to live up to the values we claimed to represent. The room was silent. This wasn't corporate spin. This was confession. Today we're announcing several initiatives designed to prevent such failures from recurring. First, the Raymond Cole Diagnostic Training Center. A screen behind Patricia displayed architectural renderings of a new facility attached to Sterling's main building. Marcus felt his breath catch at the name. Named in honor of the late Raymond Cole, whose innovative diagnostic methods were passed down to his grandson and have since revolutionized maintenance practices across the maritime industry. This center will provide free training in acoustic diagnostic techniques to mechanics from underserved communities. Enrollment will prioritize candidates who demonstrate practical aptitude, regardless of formal credentials. Marcus stared at the renderings. A building. A permanent institution. His grandfather's name on the wall. Second, we're establishing the Sterling Second Chance Scholarship Fund. This program will provide full educational funding for employees whose potential exceeds their current positions. No more janitors with engineering degrees cleaning toilets. If someone has capabilities we're not using, we'll help them develop those capabilities properly. Applause rippled through the audience. Marcus noticed that several current employees were wiping their eyes. Third, and perhaps most importantly, we're implementing a new personnel evaluation system that requires skills assessment for all positions, not just credentialed roles. Every employee from the newest hire to the executive suite will be evaluated based on what they can actually do, not just what their resume says they should be able to do. Patricia paused, letting the implications settle. These initiatives exist because one man had the courage to speak up when everyone expected him to stay silent. Marcus Cole didn't ask for recognition. He didn't demand justice. He simply fixed an engine using skills that we should have recognized years earlier. She turned toward him. Mr. Cole, would you please join me? Marcus rose on unsteady legs. The walk to the podium felt longer than it should have every step, carrying the weight of 3 years of invisibility, 6 months of transformation, and a lifetime of his grandfather's teachings. Patricia shook his hand warmly. On behalf of Sterling Engine Works Board of Directors, I want to offer our sincere apology for how you were treated. We failed you. We failed ourselves. We failed the principles that should guide any organization that claims to value excellence. Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Marcus's voice was steady despite his racing heart. I appreciate the words, but words are easy. What matters is what comes next. Agreed. Which is why we'd like to offer you a position on our advisory board. Help us ensure these changes actually happen. Help us hold ourselves accountable. Marcus hadn't expected this. You want me to advise the company that treated me like furniture for 3 years? We want you to ensure we never treat anyone that way again. Your perspective is valuable precisely because of what you experienced. You know our failures better than anyone. The room waited. Cameras captured every moment. Marcus thought of his grandfather's photograph still sitting on his mother's bookshelf. He thought of Devin Williams starting community college. He thought of the 17-year-old version of himself dreaming of opportunities that circumstances had denied. I'll consider it, he said finally. But first there's someone I need to talk to. He turned and walked toward Victoria Sterling. The crowd parted around him like water around a ship's bow. Victoria watched him approach without retreating, her expression guarded but not hostile. Ms. Sterling. Mr. Cole. They stood facing each other, the CEO who'd tried to destroy him, and the janitor who'd inadvertently destroyed her. 6 months of distance hadn't resolved the complicated emotions between them. Can we talk privately? Marcus asked. Victoria nodded slowly. The side conference room is available. They stepped through a door away from the cameras and crowd. The smaller room was quiet, neutral, free from the weight of audience expectations. Marcus spoke first. "I didn't come here to gloat." "I know." Victoria's voice was tired. Not defeated exactly, but carrying the exhaustion of someone who'd fought a war and lost. "You're not that kind of person. I learned that too late." "What happened to you?" "After everything. Officially, I transitioned to an advisory role while the board restructured leadership." Victoria's smile was bitter. "Unofficially, I'm supervising document storage and attending mandatory sensitivity training. $300,000 salary reduced to $60,000. Corner office traded for a cubicle near the loading dock." "That sounds like punishment." "It is punishment. Deserved punishment." Victoria met his eyes directly. "I've had 6 months to think about what I did. Not just to you, to everyone. All the people I stepped on to build this company. All the talent I dismissed because it didn't come wrapped in the right package. And what did you conclude? That I was wrong, that I was cruel, that I became exactly the kind of person I swore I'd never be when I was young and hungry and dreaming of success." Victoria's voice cracked slightly. "My father built this company with his hands. He worked alongside mechanics and engineers, treated everyone with respect. When he died, I inherited his business, but not his values. I turned his legacy into something he would have hated." Marcus hadn't expected this. The Victoria he'd known was incapable of self-reflection, immune to accountability. This woman seemed genuinely changed. "Why did you hate me so much?" he asked quietly. "Before the engine challenge. 3 years of scheduled humiliation. What did I ever do to you?" Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of confession. "You reminded me of what I'd given up." "What do you mean?" "I started as a mechanic, Mr. Cole. Did you know that 15 years old, working in my father's shop, learning engines the same way you learned them? Hands-on, intuitive. My father said I had the gift, that I could hear what machines were saying." Marcus stared at her. This wasn't in any article or profile he'd read. "But I wanted more. I wanted prestige, power, recognition. So I got business degrees, learned corporate strategy, transformed myself into someone the industry would respect. And somewhere along the way, I lost the connection, lost the ability to hear what my father and your grandfather understood instinctively. And when you saw me, I saw everything I'd abandoned. A man with real skill, real connection to his work, doing a job that should have been beneath him. And instead of recognizing your talent, I punished you for having what I'd thrown away." Tears were running down Victoria's face now. She didn't wipe them away. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to understand why. Not as an excuse, there is no excuse, but as an explanation. I became the villain of your story, because I couldn't face being the villain of my own." Marcus let the silence stretch between them. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. "Being better isn't about proving others wrong. It's about lifting others up." "Victoria, can I tell you something?" "Yes. 6 months ago, I hated you. After everything that happened, after the video and the job offers and the success, I still hated you. I told myself I didn't, but my mother saw through it. She always does. I deserved your hatred." "Maybe, but hatred doesn't fix anything. It just weighs you down." Marcus stepped closer. "My grandfather faced people like you his whole career. White men who couldn't see past his skin color, who assumed he was less than them because of where he came from. He could have hated them all. Instead, he changed them. One engine at a time. One act of competence after another, until they couldn't deny what he was anymore." Victoria listened without interrupting. "You did terrible things to me. But you also gave me something. 3 years of being underestimated taught me patience. 3 years of invisibility taught me observation. 3 years of swallowed pride taught me that dignity comes from inside, not from how others treat you." "That's very generous." It's not generosity, it's practicality. Marcus met her eyes steadily. They're naming a training center after my grandfather. They're creating scholarships and evaluation systems. That doesn't happen without what you did. The cruelty you showed me became the catalyst for changes that will help thousands of people. That doesn't make what I did right. No, it doesn't. But it means something good came from something bad. My grandfather would say that's how the universe balances itself. Victoria wiped her eyes finally. What happens now? Now you have a choice. You can stay in your punishment cubicle, feeling sorry for yourself, letting guilt consume whatever's left of your career. Or you can do something useful with what you've learned. Like what? They're building a training center for people who've been overlooked, people with skills that nobody sees. You were one of those people once. You know what it feels like to have talent that the world dismisses. Marcus paused. That's valuable experience, if you're willing to use it. Victoria stared at him like he'd suggested something impossible. You're offering me a second chance after everything. I'm suggesting you earn one. There's a difference. Marcus moved toward the door. The foundation I started is always looking for volunteers. People who understand what it's like to be underestimated. If you're serious about using your experience to help others, contact us. Why would you trust me? I don't trust you. But I believe people can change. My grandfather proved that his whole life changing minds by changing hearts. Marcus opened the door. Whether you change is up to you. I'm just offering the opportunity. He walked out before she could respond. The ceremony concluded an hour later. Marcus posed for photographs with Patricia Brooks and the new leadership team. He shook hands with employees he'd known only as faces that passed him in hallways during his cleaning shifts. He accepted congratulations and thanks from people who'd never noticed him when he was invisible. But the moment that mattered most came as he was leaving. David Chen caught up with him in the parking lot. Cole, wait. Marcus turned. Director Chen, congratulations on the promotion. Thanks. It should have been you, honestly. I'm where I'm supposed to be. So are you. David shifted uncomfortably. I've wanted to say something for 6 months. Never found the right time or the right words. You already apologized. Not enough. David stepped closer. I was lead mechanic for 2 years. You were right there cleaning floors, emptying trash cans. I walked past you 1,000 times. Never once did I wonder if you had skills I could use. Never once did I see you as anything other than the cleaning guy. You weren't alone in that. That doesn't make it okay. I have a mechanical engineering degree from MIT. I'm supposed to be smart enough to see what's in front of me. But I had blinders on, we all did, and it took a public humiliation to remove them. Marcus considered this. What changed for you after everything? I started looking, really looking, at everybody, not just the credentialed people. David's voice grew animated. Last month I found a guy in our shipping department who'd been working there for 8 years. Turns out he has a gift for precision welding, completely self-taught. He's training to be a fabrication specialist now. That's good. It's not enough, but it's a start. David extended his hand. Thank you, Cole, for showing us what we were missing, for making us better than we were. Marcus shook his hand firmly. Make it count. Don't let this be a moment. Make it a culture. I will. I promise. Marcus drove home through afternoon traffic, his mind processing the day's events. The training center, the scholarships, the apology, Victoria's tears and confession, David's promise. His grandfather had changed minds by changing hearts, one engine at a time, one demonstration of competence after another. The work was never finished. It simply continued through whoever picked up the tools next. Marcus pulled into his mother's apartment building and climbed the familiar stairs. Denise was waiting as always, with tea and curiosity. How was it? Complicated. Good, I think, but complicated. He told her about the training center and the name on the wall. He told her about Victoria's confession and the possibility of redemption. He told her about David Chen and the shipping department welder, and all the small changes rippling outward from a single moment of witnessed truth. Denise listened without interrupting. When he finished, she retrieved Raymond's photograph from the bookshelf and set it on the table between them. Your grandfather used to say that engines don't care about credentials. They only respond to competence. I remember. He also said that people are more complicated than engines. They have fears and prejudices and blind spots that machines don't have. Changing an engine is simple. Changing a person takes patience. Marcus looked at the photograph, his grandfather's proud expression, the grease-stained work clothes, the Ford factory rising behind him. Did he think people could change? Really change? He believed that anyone who could learn to listen to an engine could learn to listen to their own conscience. He believed that competence was contagious, that when people saw excellence, they wanted to be part of it. Denise touched the photograph gently. He believed that one good man doing his work with integrity could change the world around him without even trying. That's a lot of belief. That's faith, baby. Faith in people. Faith in the work. Faith that doing things right matters even when nobody's watching. Marcus sat with this for a long moment. Through the apartment window, Baltimore's evening lights were beginning to flicker on. The same city where Raymond Cole had built his reputation, the same harbor where ships now ran on engines monitored by systems his grandson had helped design. I've been offered a position on Sterling's advisory board, he said finally. Are you going to take it? I think so. Someone has to make sure they follow through. Someone has to hold them accountable. And Victoria. I told her to contact the foundation if she wants to help. I don't know if she will. But you gave her the chance. Grandpa would have. Denise smiled that warm, knowing smile that had guided Marcus through every challenge of his life. Yes, he would have. And he would have been proud of you for doing the same. Marcus picked up the photograph. His grandfather's eyes seemed to look directly at him, carrying messages across the decades. 1 year ago, Marcus said quietly, I was cleaning toilets and dreaming about a life I thought I'd never have. Now I'm advising companies, training mechanics, running a foundation, changing policies that will affect people I'll never meet. And how does that feel? It feels like the beginning. Marcus set the photograph down carefully. Everything that happened, the 3 years of invisibility, the challenge, the engine, the video, all of it was preparation, practice, learning to listen so I could teach others to hear. That's your grandfather's legacy, not the diagnostic methods or the training programs. You, what you become, what you do with what he gave you. The phone buzzed. A message from Devin Williams, a photograph of his first community college textbook, held up triumphantly with a caption that read, Chapter 1, Let's Go. Marcus smiled and typed back, The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Proud of you. He looked at his mother at the photograph, at the evening light falling across a city that had shaped 3 generations of his family. Grandpa always said engines have souls, Marcus said, that they respond to people who respect them, who take time to understand them. He did say that. I think people have souls too. Complicated, difficult, sometimes broken souls. But souls that can be fixed. That can be brought back to harmony if someone takes time to listen. That sounds like wisdom, baby. That sounds like the next chapter. Marcus stood and hugged his mother tightly. I don't know where this all leads, but I know I'm not the same person who walked into Sterling Engine Works with a trash bag and a dream. That person was invisible. This person has a voice, and I'm going to use it. Denise held him for a long moment. Your grandfather would be so proud of you. I know. Marcus released her and moved toward the window, looking out at Baltimore's lights at the harbor, where Raymond Cole had worked at the city, where his own legacy was taking shape. I carry him with me everywhere I go. Every engine I diagnose, every student I mentor, every system I help design, he's there, guiding my hands, training my ears, reminding me what matters. And what matters most? Marcus turned from the window. His eyes held something that hadn't been there a year ago. Not just confidence, but purpose. Not just success, but meaning. What matters most is that nobody should be invisible. Nobody should have their potential ignored because of where they come from, or what they look like, or what job they happen to be doing. Every person has something to contribute. Every voice deserves to be heard. He picked up Raymond's photograph one more time, holding it in hands that had cleaned toilets and fixed million-dollar engines and would go on to do things he couldn't yet imagine. My grandfather changed the world one engine at a time. I'm going to change it one person at a time, starting with whoever needs it most, starting with whoever society has decided doesn't matter. And if they try to stop you, if people like Victoria try to push you back into invisibility. Marcus smiled his grandfather's smile, confident and untroubled, and absolutely certain. Then, I'll do what Grandpa taught me. I'll listen. I'll learn. I'll understand what they're really saying beneath the words. And then I'll show them the same way I showed everyone in that workshop that credentials don't matter when you have competence, that assumptions don't survive demonstrations, and that every single person on this earth has something valuable to offer if someone just takes the time to see it. He set the photograph back on the shelf in its place of honor, where it had watched over this family for decades. The engine was just the beginning, Mama. The real work is just getting started. And I'm ready for whatever comes next. Outside the window, Baltimore's harbor lights reflected off dark water. Ships moved through the night, their engines humming with mechanical poetry that most people would never hear. But Marcus heard it. He'd always heard it. And now finally the world was learning to listen too. Because sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one everybody overlooks. And sometimes fixing an engine is just the first step toward fixing everything that's broken.